Good evening, everybody. How y'all doing tonight? Yeah, how about it? It's Friday night. Thank you so much for coming out and spending part of your weekend with us. My name is David Brower. I'm the new executive director of PineCone, the Piedmont Council of Traditional Music. Thank you so much. So many folks through PineCone have been incredibly welcoming. I would like to especially thank my predecessor, William Lewis, and my new colleagues, Jamie Katz-Court and Courtney Wheeler, for laying such a solid foundation that I really hope to carry on. Tonight's program is presented with support from the State Arts Council, Division of the Department of Natural and Cultural Resources, and my friend Stacy Meyer from the department will be out here in a moment. And I'm pretty sure Wayne Martin is here in the audience, or should be here shortly, the director of the State Arts Council, and many of his colleagues are here as well tonight. Thank you very much to the Arts Council for your support tonight, and to the department, and to lawmakers and our fellow citizens who believe in public support of the arts. In this day and age, it's not a given, and we all need to be grateful for people like Stacy and Wayne and others in leadership who champion public support of the performing arts. So thank you very much. Now, about tonight's program, I'm incredibly humbled to stand before you as a part of this program. I'm a pretty tall guy, but I really feel like I am standing in the shadow of giants on this stage tonight. We have a really remarkable group of people to perform for you tonight, and if you've never been present for an evening of ballads, I have one thing to say to you, and that is welcome to the first day of the rest of your life as a North Carolinian. I mean, really, if you just settle down, turn off your phone, unplug from whatever nuttiness that you've been through this week, you're in for a real treat tonight. For me, the first time that I heard Sheila Kay and Laura Boosinger and Bobby McMillan, thank you so much for being here. For me, my life was forever changed. This is the stuff, plus the old-time dance tunes that got me and thousands of others like me to start exploring traditional music. So you've been a great inspiration to all of us, and we're really, really proud to be here. The musical traditions that these folks carry forward really have every quality that we at PineCone believe in. It's music that's central to, that says something about us as a people. It's music that says something about this place where we live. It's also music that's more often sung on a porch or a fireplace hearth than in a fancy stage like this. This music is a part of our state. I'm incredibly proud to be here as a part of PineCone to present this to you tonight. PineCone is one of the resident performing arts companies here in this building. We're proud to present traditional music on this stage, which next week will host the Carolina Ballet. Just down the hall, we've got the North Carolina Symphony. And it really says something about both the state and the city of Raleigh that we're able to present this kind of music in such a rarefied setting and really alongside all different kinds of performing arts. So we're very proud to be a part of that. I would be remiss to remind you that much of the work that PineCone does throughout the year is supported by our members and donors. I know it's dark, but could we see a show of hands of PineCone members here tonight? All right. Thank you so very much for your ongoing support of PineCone, and I really hope that you'll come by and say hello to me, as I'm really having a lot of fun getting to know the folks that are making PineCone happen here year-round. We would love to hear more from you about what you'd like to see us do as an organization. We'd love to tell you about the rest of our Down Home concert series here at Fletcher. We'd also like to talk to you about the Music of the Carolinas series, our jam sessions, and our work as a producer of the Big Bluegrass Festival that's happening here October 2nd and 3rd when the International Bluegrass Music Association comes to town. If there are folks you'd like to see at the festival, we'd love to hear about it. But once again, as for tonight, the show is brought to you with support from the State Arts Council, a division of the Department of Natural and Cultural Resources. And before we get into the music tonight, please help me welcome to the stage my friend Stacy Meyer. She's the Deputy Secretary of the State Department of Natural and Cultural Resources. Stacy?
Thank you. Thank you, David. And welcome, David Brower, our new director for PineCone. We are thrilled to have him. And thank all of you for being here. Thank you all. On behalf of the department, I wanted to just bring greetings and to tell you just a little bit. 2019, our governor declared in a proclamation, he proclaimed 2019 as the Year of Music. And we had a campaign called Come Hear, HEARNC. I don't know how many people are familiar with that. Yeah. Great to hear that. We reached, during this past year, we have reached 11 million people, telling them the stories of music across North Carolina. And I'm very, very proud of that. We'd not done that before, but that program will continue. But tonight is the sort of kickoff event for our new initiative called Hello NC, where we celebrate and we help interpret and support and celebrate and highlight rural culture across our state. And so, as many of us can say, we were raised rural. That's hard to get out. But we're gonna spend this year traveling to all across our state, celebrating the rural culture. And this is our first kickoff signature event. Thank you all for being here. Thank you for supporting music, for supporting PineCone, for supporting the Department of Natural and Cultural Resources and the arts, because we have arts across this whole venue tonight. So thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Good evening. We're so delighted to be with you in Raleigh. We came down from the mountains. I'm just going to throw one thing out that I'm pretty proud of. All of us, except Bobby, although he's pretty much adopted, have roots in Madison County. Donna Ray and Sheila and Joe have grown up there their whole lives and have families from generations and generations.
Well, and Bobby's from right up the road.
And Bobby's he's close by, but I just wanted you to know we're just happy to have. I've got a point, Sheila, because when y'all open your mailbox, did you pull out your Our State magazine and check out the cover this month? It's a fabulous restaurant in downtown Marshall. So there's a lot of reasons to visit us in Madison County, so we hope you will. We've got a bunch of wonderful singers here this evening. We are going to talk a little bit about what it was when these folks. I'm Laura Boosinger, by the way. Did I say that?
You did not.
I never remember that part. We are going to talk a little bit about how they learn this music. It's pretty different than the way so many young people learn music today, because in their day it was sitting in a ballad circle at an event, or maybe, as Sheila says, learning knee to knee from another singer. But kids today, they've got recordings, they've got the internet, they've got YouTube, they've got iPhones, so there's iTunes. This music is out there everywhere. In fact, I've been listening to Dolly Parton's America podcast, which is fantastic. And in the very first podcast, I heard two voices from Madison County who were ballad singers in the background, Dillard Chandler and Doug Wallen. So it's been, and when you get to, 7 or 8 or one of those podcasts, there's Sheila Kay Adams right in the middle of the Dolly Parton podcast. So it's been really exciting to see how the roots of this ballad singing have been through the progression of country music. And of course, Dolly talks about growing up with these songs being things that she expected to hear on her front porch. This young man who's interviewing her is a little bit horrified when he hears the song of the Knoxville Girl, where he said, I threw her on the ground, I picked a stick up off the ground and I only beat her more. And he gets a little freaked out about that. And Dolly's like, well, that's what we sang every night. That's just how it was, And I'm sure just different ones of us can comment on that. What I'd like to do, though, is read a quote that came from Sheila's. All of these artists are in the Blue Ridge National Heritage Area Traditional Artist Directory and are part of the Blue Ridge Music Trails of North Carolina. Sheila's biography, I thought it was fitting, had a wonderful quote from Dan Patterson, who was a faculty at UNC in folklore for many, many years. He said, these families have made Sodom famous out of all proportion to its size. The tiny community is a giant in fostering the folk traditions of North Carolina, because many of these folks really do have their roots in this community, Sodom, where this nest of singing birds lived that Cecil Sharp found in 1916 when he came to America looking for English ballads. He didn't really think he was going to find anything, but he found people, he said, who were as likely to sing as they were to talk, and he did call them a nest of singing birds. That's where we get the title for our show tonight. On my right is Joe Penland, who is from Marshall, North Carolina. He grew up there most of his life. He's a cousin to Bascom Lamar Lunsford, which I think is pretty awesome. He actually learned some of his early music from his aunts who gave him instruments, and I think that's pretty neat. But he spent a lot of time with his good friend Jerry Adams, who's first cousin to Sheila. There's a lot of that's going to go on tonight, just so you know. And Jerry and Joe spent a lot of time with the Wallens learning music from them. I know he'll talk about that a little bit more. Donna Ray Norton is now an 8th generation ballad singer. She, her grandfather was a pretty famous fiddler from down to our county called Bard Ray. He and Aubrey Ramsey went to New York City and made a record called White Lightning that was referred to as psychedelic, which I think is, if you ever knew Bard, you would think that was a little bit of a stretch, but kind of a funny way to say that. Donna Ray is bringing on the 9th generation of ballad singers with us tonight, so welcome the baby. Sheila Kay Adams is a Brown Hudson Folklore winner, a North Carolina Heritage Award winner, and an NEA Heritage Fellow. That's the highest honor given by our government. She knows all about narrative because Sheila also is an author, a book of short stories called Come Go Home With Me, and her novel, My Old True Love. So we're so happy to have Sheila here tonight. And on the end is our friend Bobby McMillan, who comes from up around Burnsville and Yancey County. He and Sheila are almost like cousins or siblings because they've spent so much time talking about this music. And literally, we could stay here till tomorrow morning with all that Bobby McMillan knows about this music. He's also a North Carolina Heritage Award winner. When we were driving up here today, I said, Joe, I want you to start because I want you next to me. And he goes, well, you know, Laura, in a ballad circle, the oldest member always begins the singing. And I was like, gosh, did I just insult you or what? So I think this is quite an honor to have Joe Penland with us tonight, and I'm going to let him tell you whatever he wants and sing a song for us. Ladies and gentlemen, please make welcome Joe Penland.
Yeah, Joe.
Thank you, Laura. I was so fortunate that my best friend growing up was Jerry Adams, Sheila's cousin. And we were older boys, and all the pretty girls were in Sodom. Jerry lived in Walnut, I lived in Marshall, and we just started playing instruments, and it was hard to find people who would play with you. If any of you ever started playing an instrument or have a child who is trying to learn an instrument, you understand why people don't want to be around you. Well, it was good. We could go over to Lee and Burzill Wallen's house up on Crane Branch, and they let us play just like we were professional musicians. And they taught us the songs. And they taught us something about living in community. And the lovely thing they taught us was the oral tradition and how strong it was. And how the oral tradition was much more accurate, according to Mr. Sharp. In America, after my family's case, over 300 years, the ballads were closer to what he had found in, I'm bigger now, what he had found in history 100 years before he came over in 1916. So he thought he had walked into the England that he always thought he wanted to live in. And people were pretty particular about you writing down songs. It's like you were going to kind of steal them or something. But I think the big thing was that they wanted us to learn like they learned. And with that said, you want to sing songs? You want to talk about ballads?
Sing.
Yeah.
These people.
Yeah.
I needed to warn you all that up here on this stage, you have 5 all-day talkers.
Yes. Yeah.
So we're
Yeah.
going to try to get some singing out as well as talking, because I think the talking's pretty important. But Joe, we want to hear you sing. I didn't drive you all this way just to listen to you talk.
That's what she fetched.
Yeah, well, there you go. You're going to have to listen to me all the way back home. This is my favorite song. It's not the first song I learned, because Jerry and I were 14 or 15-year-old boys, and we were much interested in the songs that had a lot of, as Lee said, sword fights in them, and castles, and beautiful women, and illicit sex. We were really into that part, because that was not mentioned in a Baptist home. But so we learned some of those racier ones first, or so we thought they were, but this is the one that's always stuck with me. There's a date in this song, and it could be any date that you choose. It may be 100 years old, it may be 300 years old, but what it talks about is something that we all know about today, and that's when people's lives are so bad that they'll do almost anything to go to a place with promise.
Amen.
So here it is. When I first come to this country in 1649, I saw many fair lawyers, but I never saw mine. I view it all around me, and I found I was quite alone. And me, a poor stranger, and a long way from my home. It's not this long journey that I'm dreading to go, nor the country I'm leaving for the debt that I owe. Oh, nothing so grieves me or troubles my mind as leaving my darling pretty Sayro behind. It's my true love, she won't have me, and this I understand. She wants a freeholder, and I have no land. Oh, if I could maintain her on silver and gold, I'd buy her all of those fine things that my love's house could hold. Oh, I wish I was a poet and could write some fine hand. I'd send my love a letter that she might understand. I'd send it by the islands where the waters o'erflow. I dream of my Sayro wherever I go. It's a wish I was a turtle dove and had wings and could fly straight away to my love's lodging. This night I'd draw nigh, and in her lily white arms all night I would lay. I'd watch those little windows for the dawning of the day. I've strolled o'er these mountains, and I've strolled o'er the plain. I strove to forget her, but it was all in vain. On the banks of the Ocoee, on the mount of said brow, I once loved her dearly, and I don't hate her now. Pretty Sayro. Thank you.
I was looking at your bio, Donna, and as a kid, the ballads didn't really mean that much to you. You said they were like TV going in the background all the time. And it was really when you got a little older, maybe in high school, you started looking at some of these songs and realizing that when you read Cecil Sharp's book, there were people in that book that were related to you.
Yeah.
One thing I should say is Cecil Sharp came and collected all of these ballads. Madison County was his most fertile ground, but these folks are really the last people who knew the old people who were around when Cecil Sharp came or knew from their family about Cecil Sharp. So this is a direct line to 1916, 100 years ago, when he actually came to this country. You know, people like Deli Norton and the Wallens and all of them knew about Cecil Sharp when he was coming through, or people in their family did. So Donna, you finally got the ballad bug, and one of the songs that you learned, which has always been a favorite of mine, was called Fair and Tender Ladies. Their last quarterly version of No Depression magazine has a 2-page spread photograph of Donna Ray. in the middle. She's like the play girl, whatever. the ballad poster child in the middle of this magazine. And she recalls some of the lyrics of the song, and I too think they're beautiful. And I thought it's interesting that would be the song that would capture your imagination. So would you share that with us tonight?
Yeah.
And talk a little bit?
Yeah. I told Laura I hadn't practiced that one, but I was trying to just find some that I could breathe my way through at this point in my pregnancy. But I'm going to try to sing that one for you guys, and I learned it from Sheila. I learned most of the songs that I know from Sheila, and quite a few from my mom and Doug Wallen. But Fair and Tender Ladies, it stuck out to me because most of the ballads are, about the women are always the ones who they wind up dying or something like that. But this song is actually a lady is talking about her broken heart, and I felt like it was one of the only ones that sounded this way, and so it kind of spoke to me as a teenage girl who's obviously going through all these, emotions.
Fair and tender lady.
Yes, I was, and I obviously was going, having boyfriend problems and things like that when I was a teenager. So that song just kind of spoke to me. So, and I did hear all these songs being sung in the background of my life as I was growing up, and Sheila's sons, Hart and Andrew, are my age, and I just remember Mom going over to Sheila's, and she'd bring me, and Bobby would be there with Sheila, and so Hart and Andrew and I would sit in the living room and play, and we would always hear them cutting up and singing and telling stories and stuff in the kitchen, and I have fallen asleep so many nights listening to them sing these songs. And so sometimes I find myself on stage and I'll be yawning. And I'm like, and everybody's probably like, is she bored? No, these are lullabies for me. But yeah, this one just stuck out to me because it was so beautiful, and I really felt I had compassion for this girl. So this is Fair and Tender Ladies. Come all ye fair and tender ladies, take warning how you court young men. They're like a bright star of a summer's morning. They first appear and then they're gone. I once did meet a fair true love him, a true one too I took him to be. Then he went away and found him another, and that's the love he had for me. Oh, love is sweet and love is charming, and love is pleasant when it's new. But love grows cold as it grows older, and fades away like the morning dew. If I'd a knowed before I courted that love would be so hard on me, I'd have put my heart in a box of silver and locked it up with a golden key. Oh, that I were a pretty little sparrow, and had I wings that I could fly, I'd light upon his breast and flutter, and tell him of deceiving me. I hope there is a day a-comin' when my false love your eyes shall see. I hope there is a place of torment to contain my love for deceiving me. Come, all ye fair and tender ladies, take warning how you court young men. They're like a bright star of a summer's morning. They first appear and then they're gone. Fair and tender ladies. I made it.
In 1976, the state of North Carolina hosted, I actually don't really know who it was, but that sounds good, the Bicentennial Folklife Festival over at the Eno River Park. They divided the state up into the park into 3 sections, one for the coastal plains, one for the Piedmont, and one for the mountains. There were amazing artists at this program. I was 18 years old, didn't really know anything much about the music, was just moving to North Carolina, but I saw Lulabelle Wiseman and Doc Watson, and I saw the Red Clay Ramblers, who were sort of a brand new string band playing old-time music. They were kids, you know. We were all kids. And every section of the state in this park had foodways and craftways and music. The mountain stage was up a little bit on a little bit of a hill, I guess, so that you felt like you were in the mountains. And up on that stage were these women in bonnets, old-timey bonnets, and a man in overalls who put his arms out and embraced the entire audience when he sang. And over on the side of the stage was a long, lanky, long-legged girl sort of slouched up over there, kind of paying attention, but she didn't look all that engaged, to tell you the honest truth. And that was the first time I laid eyes on Sheila Kay Adams. I didn't know Sheila. We didn't really get to know each other for a number of years after that. But one thing that impressed me was my mother, standing there beside me, who looked at these women whose faces were sort of covered in these bonnets, and my mother saying to me, my grandma wore a bonnet like that. And I knew there was not one thing about their attire that was put on for the city folks. This is what they wore when they were picking the tobacco. This is what they wore when they were picking corn and beans in the garden. This is who they were. And for my mother to have that reaction really meant a lot to me, because I never knew my great-grandmother at all. But Sheila and I have talked about this a bunch of times. We've done some traveling together, and it's just so... I want her to talk a little about the old folks that she took around and tell people, Sheila, what really is a ballad circle, because they kind of performed that way that day at the festival.
I have to stand up. Otherwise, I can't breathe. So, well, somebody said, Lord, you're awful dressed up. And I said, yeah, but look at my socks. Can you all see my socks? This thing's going to... Okay, I'll sit down and do this. But can you see my socks? Popcorn box.
She just
And
wanted
she's
to...
got underwear to match, too.
Yes, I do.
How do you know, Joe?
Well, Joe's just interested in these things. He's been that way ever since I've known him. But anyhow, the folks that Joe was talking about, Lee Wallen. Now, this is going to get confusing, but don't worry about it. You don't have to remember it. Nobody's going to test you on it. So, I don't know, I might. So, now I'm worried about my microphone. So, but anyhow, the people that actually sang these songs, Laura mentioned that Granny and Burzell and Lee, all of them remembered Cecil Sharp coming, but they didn't sing for him because they thought he was a German spy. Or... because he showed up in 1916, or he was still tucked up with that woman that was with him, Maud Carpelese. That was not true. She was his assistant, and they said she writ things, that's what they said, in a foreign language. And we found out later it was shorthand, because she was getting the words while Sharp was taking down the tune. And when Sharp came, one of the places he went was a woman named Zip Rice. We called her Aunt Zip. She lived to be 112 years old, but there was something out of the Bible that said you should not pass 108. So on her tombstone it says, 108 plus 4. So, and she sang for Cecil Sharp. And in 1970, I went over to, Mama went with me, and we went to see Aunt Zip. And she was blind and almost completely deaf, and you had to get right up close to her and just scream. But once she got Cecil Sharp, she started talking about it. And she said, yeah, he was here, wore a white suit, and the biggest flood that had ever hit Madison County had just happened. And I looked out across the creek, and there's a feller over there in a white suit and a big floppy white hat on, and I thought he was over there. It looked like he was grazing, picking grass off of the ground. He was like bowing down and then getting up. And I didn't tell her that Cecil Sharp was a vegetarian. He probably was grazing, because when I was over in England and went to the Cecil Sharp house, he talked nonstop in his diaries about the awful food these people consume. Because you know how it is.
They cooked everything in. Even the vegetables were cooked in hog fat.
That's exactly right.
Even the apples, he said, they cooked the apples in hog fat.
Yep.
They don't eat much meat, but they
It's
got
delicious.
lots of lard.
Delicious.
And everybody knows that food don't taste worth nothing. It ain't fit to eat, as Granny used to say, unless it's got streaky meat or fat back in it.
Absolutely.
So, but they all lived up into their 90s. Kaz was, I think, 91 when he passed away. And his brother Lee, I guess he's probably, what, in his 80s?
83.
Yeah. But Daddy always said about the Chandler women, don't worry about them dying anytime soon. They was up in their 80s. He said, don't worry about it, because them Chandler women are going to live until they have to knock them in the head with an iron frying pan on the Judgment Day, and that was about right. Because Granny died in 1993, and she was almost 95. So, and the way, and it's like Donna Ray said, there's never been a time in my life, once Jerry learned how to play the banjo, that I have not had some sort of music going on. Mom and Daddy weren't all that interested. Mama said they threw the culture away with both hands. And part of that culture was the singing of them old songs. So they didn't learn. But Mama said, now, here's the curious thing about life. I practiced in front of the mirror to lose my accent. When me and your daddy moved down to Mobile to work in the shipyards.
Where they didn't have an accent.
That's right. My first comment to Mama after that was, how in the hell can anybody from Mobile make fun of the way anybody talks? And she said, well, everybody, now there's people there from all over the United States working at the shipyard. And she said, and I practiced, and she did. Mama could drop that accent and you couldn't tell what part of the United States she is from. And she said, now, I worked hard to lose that accent, and now they pay you to go and talk the same way. But Sharp predicted that the ballad tradition would be dead and gone by 1950, because he said he'd been up in Kentucky and West Virginia and Southwest Virginia and seen what the coal mining. And what he said destroyed culture was industrialization and education. And he said the reason the people in the Laurel country were able to be born into their rightful heritage and begin living their culture from birth was all of the leisure time they had. Yeah, right. Well, see, he was there in June and July and August when the putting in had already taken place and the putting up had not started. So, but in spending a lot of time with the older folks, I can remember them working in tobacco, and up at Granny's house you could sit on the high end of the porch, as she called it, and you could see all the way to Little Ball Mountain in Tennessee. And they'd been working in tobacco. Me and Sue were up there together, and her cousin had come to help them. And it was about dark, and the lightning bugs were out all over the place, and that whole valley looking out toward Tennessee was just like a Christmas tree. And I was almost asleep, and I heard a voice start singing behind me. And I can remember it raised goosebumps, you know. And that would have been a little bit after 1958, because I was born in 1953, and Sue was born 16 days before me. And so there we were with Granny, and behind us started singing Dillard Chandler. And he sang this song, so I'm going to sing A Soldier Traveling from the North. And Dillard would stand and rock back from one foot to the other, you know, but anyway. And there's so many memories with me. Every song that I hear Joe sing or Bobby sing or Donna sing, I remember who sang it for me. You know, and it really was an oral tradition. They would not write it down, and if they did, I think when Burzell was 87, she'd come up and hand me this little square of paper, notebook paper, that she'd folded into this tiny little thing, and she'd say, here's the ballad for that song you wanted to learn. And it was the words. And Bobby said that when they wrote the words down on a piece of paper, it went from a love song to a ballad. So, anyhow, this is Dillard's Soldier Traveling from the North. A soldier traveling from the north, while the moon shined bright and clearly, the lady knowed the gentleman's horse, because she loved him dearly. She took the horse by the bridle rein, and she led it to the stable. There's hay and oats for ye horse to eat. Go feed him, you are able. She took him by the lily white hand, and she led him to the table. There's cake and wine for you, my love. Go eat and drink, you're welcome. She pulled off her blue silk gown, and she throwed it across the table. He pulled off his uniform suit, and he hopped in the bed with the lady. I heard some trumpets sound, my love, and I must go and find them. Oh, soldier dear, don't you leave me here, for I am burnt forever. When silver bells and conch shell stands, when you and I shall marry, oh, soldier dear, don't leave me here, for now I am burnt forever. And that's Dillard's Soldier Traveling from the North. But now, I've got to say this about that song. I was sitting on stage with Granny probably 30 years ago, and we were singing at Western Carolina Heritage Day. And I decided to change the word "runt" because I didn't think nobody would know what "runt" meant. It sounds like you're saying "runt," but it's "runt." And out of nowhere, and I sing with my eyes closed because it's like a movie, going on in my head. That's one of the ways that I was able to learn them, because I just made a film, and now I see the whole film. And me and Bobby were talking on the drive down here about how you almost have to be, it's like you become a part of the ballad. You become somebody that's in the ballad, or at least an observer of what's going on. But out of nowhere, when I replaced "runt" with "ruined," came this hand right over my mouth. Whop. And I looked over at her, and she said, leaned into the microphone and said, "Now let me tell you, she's young and don't know the difference between runt and ruined, and runt's a lot worse than ruined."
Absolutely.
You can get on folkstreams.net and see Dillard Chandler sing that song of a film that John Cohen made. Help me, I can't pull the name out of it right now.
End of an
End of
old
the
song.
End of an old song, yeah, thank you. So you can actually see him, and it's a pretty interesting film. It looks like it's 1940, and it's more like 1965. It seems very remote, you might say, but it's a wonderful piece of work. So
And it shows, my family,
Right, Deli and
family members out,
Brazil.
doing, back when they were like young, which is pretty cool.
60.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, they lived 30 more years.
That was
so
funny.
There you go.
It's not funny to some people.
That was hilarious. Bobby, thank you for coming and being with us tonight.
Well, you're welcome. Thank you.
Bobby McMillan is a North Carolina Heritage Award winner. He also, one of my best memories of Bobby was him singing, I think it was Hicks Farewell, but it might have been I Do Me, up at Mars Hill one time, just reared back and sang a cappella Baptist, primitive Baptist hymn. He knows a lot about boogers and haint tails. Boogers, you don't need a napkin for that, something different. But he's also an expert on the ballad of Frankie Silver, who was the last woman, is that right? Hung in North Carolina?
No. She wasn't the first nor the last.
She was neither the first nor the last, but they did hang
the
her.
only woman ever lived
What'd you say?
Bobby said, lean up there, Bobby,
She's the only woman that I know of that ever legally hanged
in the state of North
in
Carolina.
North Carolina.
And as we all know, she did not deserve it.
Well, now Bobby will argue with you.
Oh, he will?
Yeah, you don't
Okay.
want to
Yeah,
get
he's
started on
he's
that.
related to them
He's
Silvers.
related to the Silvers.
Well, good
We're all
gosh.
related to Frankie.
Yeah, Stewarts. We're the Stewarts.
Okay, so in Madison County, there's no family tree. It's a wreath.
It's
a
a
wreath.
family wreath, that's right.
Sorry, I stole your joke there.
no, it's all right.
So, Bobby, I'm just going to turn it over to you to do whatever you feel. It used to be that ballad singers had to sit a minute sometimes, didn't they, Sheila? And have a song sort of come to
Oh,
them.
and they would always say, "Now I'm so hoarse, I don't know if I'll be able to sing or not. I'll do the best I can, but it ain't going to be worth nothing," and then blow your ears off all the way back.
I guess the trail of the love songs that I grew up with started where in my father's home community, which was near Cosby in Upper East Tennessee in the Smoky Mountains. And the next county this direction was Madison County. And the next county after that was, the next two counties was Yancey and Mitchell County, where my mother's people grew up. And then it extended up into Avery, Watauga, and over into Caldwell and Wilkes County. But that's a big, long tail. So I'm going to concentrate on one person because I thought of something that I remember from many years ago, noticing that at one time the scholars thought that ballad singing was like kind of like we're doing it tonight in a way, rigid, and the singers a lot of times didn't emote a whole lot with their expressions, and so they thought that it was kind of choir, I guess you'd say. the way they done. But one of the ballad singers that I grew up with and was perhaps the one that of all that I've ever known was one that I was most close to, was on my daddy's side of the family. His oldest brother married a local girl that lived just down the creek from where he grew up. And her mother taught me over around 100 of the old love songs that she grew up with. And so over many, many, many years, I learned quite a bit about her life. And Mama loved singing, and there wasn't any right way or wrong way to sing them. Now, some ballad singers would quickly point out if something was wrong, but Mama didn't matter to her. She just loved to sing. But she had a hard life. She was born in 1900. Her name was May Schultz. That wasn't her blood name. She was what the mountain people would have called a base-born child. Her mother's name was, they called her Aunt Becky Jenkins. Aunt Becky was a Schultz, and she was born in 1867. And she was first married to an old man named Lige Fowler. And she had 2 boys by him during her first marriage. And like some men will do, he took up with, as Ma would have called her, old Liz Green the bitch. And so Mama's mother, we always called her Ma, Aunt Becky. I'll call her Aunt Becky to clarify that. She basically was run off from home. And there was a story behind that. I recently found where I wrote it down one time when Mama told it to me. But the upstart is that that Ma had to leave her home and her children too. She couldn't even get her boys. And so she had to have work. And her mother and daddy lived over near Cosby. And down the creek a little ways was a man named John Harrison. He was what was known as a widder man. And his wife was dead. He had a big family. And he needed a hard person, a hired. Now, I say hard person, but I'm talking about hired.
We knew what you meant.
All right. To help with the kids and the laundry, the cooking, all that stuff. So Ma went to work for him. And, of course, he, being a widder man, I guess one thing led to another. And Ma was kind of vulnerable because of the way things had happened in her first marriage. And so she became big with child. And John Harrison wouldn't marry her. He made promises, that's the way they do. They'd make promises, but promises are sometimes made to be broke. And he did. And so she had to leave there. And she had her daughter May, that I grew up knowing her as Mama because of my first cousins. She was her blood grandmother. And Mama went with her mother to Newport, and Aunt Becky got a job with the Southern Railroad and working in the commissary. And she would do the washing, the clothes for the railroad men. And along about 1904, Ma met this young man. I don't know if he worked for the railroad or just how she met him, around Newport somewhere. And her great-grandchildren always laughed at her for because of his name, it was Esau Mantooth. And they all thought that was a hilarious name. He was from Morristown, or as they say over there, Morristown. And he, I reckon, fell in love with Aunt Becky, and she finally agreed to marry him. And so she needed a daddy for her young'un, and he was to come one Saturday on the train from Morristown and pick up Aunt Becky and Mama and take them with him back to Hamlin County, I believe it was. And so in the meantime, at about that time, there was a band of gypsies that come through East Tennessee, and they camped out there in Newport, and they had, you know, a little, like a carnival sort of show, I guess. And Aunt Becky had some time off and took Mama to with her to the gypsy show, and there was a fortune teller there, and she went and had the gypsy to read her fortune. I guess she was sort of looking forward to the future anyway, right about then. And gypsy read her cards or read the tea leaves or whatever means she used to foretell the future. And she said, "You're going to get married." And she said, she agreed. And the gypsy said, "You're going to marry an old man with a gray beard on his chin. He'll come walking over the mountain on a walking stick." And she looked at her right funny and told her she was crazy. Said that her fiance was coming that weekend to take her and Mama home with him and marry her. And she said, "Well, that's just what the fortune says." Well, I don't know. That was before the Spanish flu ever come around. I guess they had other varieties of the flu. But Esau Mantooth got sick, and he had something wrong with him, and he was bedfast for a while. And he didn't know how to contact Aunt Becky. And so he didn't show up that weekend. And when after she'd been done dirty twice, she flew mad, and she quit her job there in Newport, went back home to her mother and dad's, and never contacted him anymore. I don't know if she ever heard from him or not, but she just thought he had done her wrong. And so, anyway, her dad was friends with an old man named Mitch Sutton that lived up under the mountain, and he'd come and visit him, and he wanted to bring a friend with him one day to meet Aunt Becky. And it was old man Dugan Jenkins. He was a Civil War veteran. He's probably 20-some years older than Aunt Becky. But he come across the mountain on a walking stick with a gray beard. And so I reckon she decided to give in to her fate, and she married him. Well, he was a widowed man. He had children, too. His name was Dugan Jenkins. And he married Ma, and her and Mama went up and on the head of Cosby, just up across the field from where my grandfather was born and raised, and lived there. And Mama grew up loving old songs. And the point I was going to make about the unemotionalness of ballads was that maybe to some people it would seem that way, but I noticed over the years of listening to Mama sing that many of the songs that she did were what Evelyn Ramsey would have called a mood song.
Mood song, that's right.
They suited the mood, and she sang this song. She learned it from an old man and woman up in the Smokies. And it always made me think of her mother and what she had went through. And this is what it was. They didn't usually give titles to ballads. Sometimes they'd have one, like Frankie Silver's was the name of the ballad about her. But usually the first line was just what they got for a name. And this is how it went. I used to wear my aprons low. I used to wear my aprons low. I used to wear my aprons low. My love followed me through frost and snow. But now my apron's to my chin. But now my apron's to my chin. But now my apron's to my chin. He passes my door, but he won't come in. He goes down to yander's town. He goes down to yander's town. He goes down to yander's town. Takes him a chair and he sits down. He takes that other girl on his knee. He takes that other girl on his knee. He takes that other girl on his knee. And he tells her the things that he once told me. I wish to the Lord my baby was born. I wish to the Lord my baby was born. I wish to the Lord my baby was born, sitting on its papa's knee. And me poor girl were dead and gone. And me poor girl were dead and gone. And me poor girl were dead and gone. And the green grass growing over me. And that's it. Thank you.
That was an amazing story, Bobby. Thank you for telling that whole tale, and it really turned around. They talk about the gypsies coming through, I know.
Well, you know, and Joe might remember this, that it hadn't rained in like 2 months in Madison County, and the gypsies came. Do you remember when
the rainmaker came down to Hot
Rainmakers,
Springs.
that's right.
They shot dynamite off, and
Yep.
he danced around with the
Right,
drum.
and
they paid him for 2 weeks.
Right.
And it rained finally.
right, and then they run him off.
Yeah, then he was gone. Well, he didn't want to stay anyway.
No, I don't guess so.
Well, I think we better take a break. There's plenty more music, but let's take a little break, and we'll come back in about, 10 minutes. What do you think? Yeah. And here's some more singing from this nest of singing birds. I'm going to start off this set. I had the good fortune to go to a college, a liberal arts school that had the sense to bring traditional musicians to the campus so that you could learn things like ballad singing, shape note singing, flat pick guitar, clawhammer banjo, storytelling, the history of country music. My father looked at my report card and says, "What are these classes you're taking?" I said, "Dad, I'm making straight A's." I have been employed ever since. My brother, who got a big computer degree, not so much. So I think it turned out just fine. Woo!
And we're real lucky to have snagged Laura for the director of the Madison County, North Carolina Arts Council.
Yes,
We're going to keep her.
Woo! Thank you. One of the folks I was really enamored with was Evelyn Ramsey. She was quiet. Well, around me she was. I don't know how she was. Okay, wrong.
No,
That's a big
she's
wrong
my aunt,
out
and
there.
I can say that.
Okay.
No.
I thought she was sweet and delightful, but maybe that's not the truth.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
A
She was like my
conversation-
aunts.
A conversation between her and my aunt Zenobia was like this. Now I'd be at I called her Nanny, but she was my aunt. But It's like one of them things Bobby was talking about a minute ago. But those are my dad's sisters. And so Nanny, my cousin Monica, and I would be over there playing, and Nanny would pick up the phone and it'd be Evelyn. And so Nanny'd say, well, hey, Evelyn. Well, yes, honey, I know. Why, yeah, now, I'll tell you what. Well, I know. Yeah, no, yeah. Oh, all right, bye-bye.
Absolutely.
Every time.
I didn't experience that. But David Holt would bring the ballad singers to campus and have them perform, but also do classes. And one of the songs that Evelyn always sang was one that got pretty popular in the 1960s, but for some reason I missed all of those folk singers like Joan Baez. I had no idea who she was. I just didn't. I lived on the wrong side of the country, I think, to know about Pete Seeger, Joan Baez, and some guy that really couldn't sing, don't throw things, named Bob Dylan. He has one note in his whole. Anyway, that's personal. You didn't need to hear that. So I would like to sing for you in great deference to these singers the way I remember learning Black is the Color from Evelyn Ramsey. Black is the color of my true love's hair. His face is like some rosy fair, with the prettiest face and the neatest hands. I love the ground whereon he stands. I love my love, and well he knows. I love the ground whereon he goes. And if you no more on earth can see, I can serve you as you have me. I go to the Clyde for to mourn and weep, so satisfied that I cannot sleep. I'll write to you a few short lines, and I'll suffer death 10,000 times. Now the winter's past and the leaves are green. The time has passed that we have seen, but still I hope the day will come when you and I shall be as one. Black is the color of my true love's hair. His face is like some rosy fair, with the prettiest face and the neatest hands. I love the ground whereon he stands. Thank you.
I reread one of those verses. And I have to say that that's one of those songs that Aunt Evelyn's philosophy was rear your head back and sing.
That's right. On the porch.
Yes, and my nanny, Zenobi, would say, I don't know why yins like to do that old hollering anyway.
Maybe you could tell us, Joe.
Yeah, well, one thing, my dad and mom came from musical families, but they didn't sing that old hollering. That's what Daddy called it. When I told him I made a record for my kids to know the songs I'd learned when I was little, he says, I hope you're not going to do that old hollering. And I said, well, it's too late, Daddy. It's already out there. But now the strange thing was that he didn't like what he called the old ballads and love songs, but he loved the Carter family. And I tried to tell him, I said, A.P. Carter just went out and got the ballads, put some music behind it and a chorus, and there you have it. And he said, no, that's not the way it is. I like country music. I didn't know about Cecil Sharp when we was growing up. I didn't know nothing about that. Didn't know about anything about a book until a friend of our family's gave to my daughter Lauren a copy of the book. And then I got really fascinated. And the more I got into this thing, and I don't know if you do do this. I'm kind of a Virgo kind of person. You know, once you start, you got to keep going till all the romance is out of it. But I ended
Kind of what you told me about your marriages driving up here today, too. I think.
Yeah.
Threads, Joe,
yeah.
threads.
He married every one of my cousins, and there's a bunch of them.
Well, in some states, there's other cousins that we'd be married, but but I fell in love in this work, and the thing I fell in love with was this woman, this young woman. Cecil Sharp fell in love with her. Maud Carpley's fell in love with her. They stumbled upon the cabin of Reuben and Rosie Hensley up in Carmen, which is the head of Shelton Laurel. Little log cabin there, and they lived there with their daughter. And he liked it so well he went back for 3 days, and he got 30 songs off that family and some fiddle tunes too that he wrote down. But the thing was, they had this 13-year-old daughter. She was just barely 13. She was born on the 4th of July in 1903. And he says, I am so interested in this young woman. She's only 13, but she looks like she's full grown. She has fair hair and blue eyes, and she is so smart, and she wants to go to school. She was there in a flour sack dress, bare feet, and she sang for Cecil Sharp. And they were talking about maybe helping her to go to school down in Hot Springs at the Doylan Institute. And her mother says, I really want her to go to school. So I think it'll be good for her. Her sister got married when she was 15, and I said, I don't want Emma to get married that early. If she goes to school, maybe she won't. And said, another thing is that she's took up chewing tobacco. I think those strict Presbyterians down there are the kind of breaker of that thing, you know. But it was expensive to go to that school, but guess what? Maud Carpley's and Cecil Sharp, Maud Carpley's mostly put the money up.
Yep.
And she was accepted to the Doylan Institute. And Maud Carpley's bought her little school uniform and shoes.
And that was something.
And her daddy says, yes, honey, says, if you'll go to that school and learn how to play music, I'll sell a cow and buy you an organ here at the house. And the deal was struck. So she went off to school. Now, Cecil Sharp loved the people of Shelton Laurel, but it was awful hard for him to get there. But he could go to Hot Springs, where there was a couple of really good ballad singers, and ride the train from Asheville, or he could stay in what Maud Carpley said, a large, not unfashionable hotel. Well, they happened to be there on the first day that Emma was at school. So they sent word to her for her to come over and have dinner with them. Like I said, last time they saw her, she was barefoot. She showed up in her school uniform, all prim and proper, and she walked into this hotel, which was one of the finest in the southern United States. Had a dining room that sat 500 people and mirrored walls and silver service and a waiter for every little thing. And Maud Carpley said, you know, she said, she came over and she sat down with us, and she acted like she went out to dinner like that every night. She watched what I did with the silverware. She said, Lord, there's knives and forks everywhere, but she did the same thing all the time, carrying on a wonderful conversation. We had our dinner, and she went on back to school. They were impressed. The next morning, they were going over to see Miss Jane Gentry, and the bridge was out, and she lived across the river then, so they were going to have to take a ferry across. And when they got to the little ferry, who should they see but Emma and one of her schoolmates with their suitcase. And she jumped on a boat. She says, I'm going home. He says, wait. And so she waited on the other side, and he went over there, and he wanted to try to talk her out of going to school and going home. But she had nothing. She said, I'm going home to my mama. I miss my mama. I might come back sometime, but I'm not ready to come here now. And then she looked at him, and then she got this really contrite look on her face. She says, I'm so sorry you've done so much for me. Then she perked right up and said, why don't you come home with me? And she took off and walked 20 miles to her house. And Maud Carpley's kept track her, and they right to Emma's death. They wrote letters back and forth. She came back to see her in 1950, and there's a recording of her singing ballads up there, and one of them is she sings a cappella, "Black is the Color," and then she sings it to accompany herself on the pump organ. So I guess her daddy sold that damn cow anyway. And I want to sing a song that she sang for her. I was not prepared to sing it tonight until I heard Donna Ray talking about how, you know, young people, and especially young girls at her age, they like those tragic romance, star-crossed lovers and things. And this is a little short song that she sang, and I learned it from Peter Gott. I didn't learn it from any other singers we know. Don't you remember last Friday night, what that you told me while sitting by my side? You said that you loved me so deep within your breast, and accepting we get married, no longer could you rest. When her old parents came to know, they locked her up, they locked her secure. They locked her up, they locked her secure. And they told me I couldn't see my love ever anymore. But straight to my love's window away I'd go to see if I could call my love or no. And the answer she gave me with tears all in her eyes, I love that man who loves me, and I'll love him till I die. Then off to the wars I did go, to see if I could forget my love or no. For 1 long year I served my king, and in 1 more long year I turned home again. As I was all walking, my armor shining bright, all of my thoughts were on my heart's delight. When her old mama saw me coming, she broke down and cried and said, my daughter loved you dearly, and for your sake she died. Oh, where is her grave? Where does it lie? Pray that mine might be by its side. All this grief and sorrow is more than I could bear. My true love's in her grave, and I wish I was there. Last Friday night.
I think the stories are as good as the songs. It's like double-barreled songs and stories here. That's so good. What do you got, little Missy?
Well, I think I'm going to sing something funny just because we haven't done that yet. And that's...
I just did.
That was not funny. That was awful.
Not everybody died.
I'm going to sing a song that I learned from Bobby. And usually my cousin Melanie sings this song, but she's not here today. So, but the reason that I love this song so much is because the woman is kind of the bad guy in this song, and that's pretty awesome because that doesn't usually happen in ballads.
It's also one that it's hard for a man to sing that song without getting the ladies in the audience throwing rocks at him.
Yeah. But this song in particular reminds me of my grandmother. And I know that's terrible to say that, but she was just real tough. She was kindly mean. And she's who I heard say bad words for the first time.
You're talking about Ain't Nowhere.
Yes, I am.
Ain't Buzz.
Yep, and my mama is very prim and proper. Like, she doesn't say bad words and things, and so I probably get that from my grandma. And she's like Donna Ray, stop talking like that. She don't like that. Well, my mama was telling me, my Aunt Sharon, her baby sister, passed away. Well, sort
2
of.
years ago in
Yeah, I
February,
know
yeah.
it feels like recently to me still, but Mom was telling me a story about when she came. My mom went to college in New York City during the folk music revival. And so she actually sang with Simon and Garfunkel while she was up there, and like got to meet some of the people like that you were talking about earlier. And so her style of singing is a lot different than ours.
But boy, she's got a beautiful voice.
Yes, she does.
Absolutely.
But she said, I came home and I had all these fancy clothes, and all of the cousins and my little baby sister loved. They were like, Lord, Lena Jean's got all them purty clothes from up there in New York and everything. And she said, and I had to go stay home with Mama and Sharon. And so I'd give Sharon some of my clothes every once in a while, and sometimes she'd take them without asking me. But she said one time I was at the house, and Sharon had said something and smarted off to Mommy. And she said, and Sharon did the dumbest thing that I have ever seen anybody do in my life. She said she smarted off at Mommy and then ran into her bedroom and hid under the covers. And she said Mama come through there, grabbed a stick of stove wood, and started wiring her out underneath them covers with a stick of stove wood, Donna Ray. She was hitting her with a stick of stove wood. And I was like, Mommy, stop. You're going to kill her. You've got to stop. But she said, but I don't remember what Sharon did, but she probably deserved it. But my grandma was just that's just how she was. Yeah, she was a good time, but I just loved being around her because she liked to say bad words. But this song really, really reminds me of her. And she dipped snuff. So she was one of them women that you were talking about chewing backer and stuff like that. That was my grandma. So this song is called The Farmer's Cursed Wife. And there's one verse in particular that reminds me very much of her, and you'll probably figure it out. So this is The Farmer's Cursed Wife. There was an old farmer lived over the hill, and if he ain't dead, he's a living there still a singing fi, fi, diddle-lie, fi, diddle-lie, diddle all day. Well, the devil stepped up to the man at plow, said, one of your family I'm a-taking right now, a-singing fi, fi, diddle-lie, fi, diddle-lie, diddle all day. Well, the farmer said, I've come undone. You've come to get my only son, a-singing fi, fi, diddle-lie, fi, diddle-lie, diddle all day. Well, it ain't your son or your gal I crave, but your old scolding wife, and her I'll take, a-singing fi, fi, diddle-lie, fi, diddle-lie, diddle all day. Well, welcome, sweet Satan, from the bottom of my heart. I hope you and her never more shall part, a-singing fi, fi, diddle-lie, fi, diddle-lie, diddle all day. Well, he stuffed her down in an old tote sack, and he looked like a camel with a hump on his back, a-singing fi, fi, diddle-lie, fi, diddle-lie, diddle all day. Well, he carried her down to the forks of the road, said, get down, woman, you're a hell of a load, a-singing fi, fi, diddle-lie, fi, diddle-lie, diddle all day. Well, then he carried her down to the gates of hell, said, poke up the fire, boys, we'll roast her well, a-singing fi, fi, diddle-lie, fi, diddle-lie, diddle all day. Long come a little demon a-dragging his chain. She grabbed it up and she smattered out his brains, a-singing fi, fi, diddle-lie, fi, diddle-lie, diddle all day. Now there's 6 little demons a-setting on the wall. She picked up a poker and she thrashed them all, a-singing fi, fi, diddle-lie, fi, diddle-lie, diddle all day. Well, then she grabbed old Satan by the hair of the head, said, I'd have done killed you if you weren't done dead, a-singing fi, fi, diddle-lie, fi, diddle-lie, diddle all day. Now the littlest demon stepped up and said, you better take her back, Daddy, or we'll all be dead, a-singing fi, fi, diddle-I, fi, diddle-I, diddle all day. Well, the farmer saw him coming, and he bit his tongue, and he broke for the woods in a flat-out run, a-singing fi, fi, diddle-I, fi, diddle-I, diddle all day. And he is heard to say as he run o'er the hill, if the devil won't have her, I'll be damned if I will, a-singing fi, fi, diddle-I, fi, diddle-I, diddle all day. Well, here's your ma'am, and she sure is well, but I'll tell you what, she's tore up hell, a-singing fi, fi, diddle-I, fi, diddle-I, diddle all day. Well, I've been the devil for all of my life, but I've never been to hell till I met your wife, a-singing fi, fi, diddle-I, fi, diddle-I, diddle all day. And then the children said, we sure is cursed, for she's been to hell and she's come back worse, to singing fi, fi, diddle-I, fi, diddle-I, diddle all day. Now this just goes to show that women are better than the men, for we can go to hell and come back again, a-singing fi, fi, diddle-I, fi, diddle-I, diddle all day. I was trying to breathe through that when you heard that. That's one of my favorites.
Well, that's one of the ones that all the young people want to learn first. That one and the Four Nights.
I learned Four Nights Drunk when I was in the second grade because Sheila sang it at school.
Yep.
Well, she didn't sing the 7 nights of it.
No, I
she
did not
didn't
sing all 7 of them.
I just now learned those verses.
Yeah.
It's a family show, kids. Family show.
Yes.
Your turn.
My turn. All right. Well, what I'm going to do is I've got to sing one of Inez, Double Barrel Chandlers. She's a chandler that married a chandler and did not have a filter between her brain and her mouth. But it's a real quick little one, and then I'm going to do one that's kind of got interesting things. So I'm going to do this quick one, and then I'll do it, and it's another short one. So, but I went down to Inez's, and I was about 15 because I was scared to death of her until then, because she had this, she referred to herself as being big and stout, and she was real intimidating, and would look at you with those green eyes, boy, narrowed down, and I was afraid of her. And she hated young'uns. Mm-hmm. She told me every time I go in that store with my dress on, and they love polyester. Mm-hmm. They all believe polyester was the greatest invention of the 20th century because you didn't have to iron it. Most uncomfortable stuff, it froze you to death in the wintertime and burned you up in the summertime. But they swore by it. But Inez knew more dirty jokes and more dirty songs than anybody I've ever known this side of Bobby McMillan. Now, and if you want to hear a song that is going to disappear because the bawdy ballads did not go into Cecil Sharp's book, he makes mention that they were songs that were sung that were not appropriate. And he said there were also a bunch of sacred songs, but he didn't even record the really bawdy ballads. But when I went down to see Inez at 15 because she invited me to come down, and I thought, Lord have mercy, Inez is going to sing for me. And I'd heard she could sing, so I was all proper, I was going to learn this just like I'd learned them from Granny and Burzell. And this is what she sung. I had my eyes closed and they popped open at a certain spot, and I'll bet you'll figure out right where it was. There was an old farmer who lived by the sea, and a merry old farmer was he. Well, he had a fair maiden who laid on the grass, and every time she turned over, she'd show her fair ruffles and tuffles as slick as a duck. She taught that old farmer a new way to bring up the children and teach them to knit, while the servants in the barnyard were shoveling out contents of the barnyard as slick as glass. If you don't like my story, you can just kiss my daughter in the parlor. Winds up the clock with a piece of red ribbon tied all round her. Poodle dogger, poodle dogger, poodle dog galore. If you don't like my story, I'll tell it no more. And there's songs that, and part of it were mood songs, just like Bobby said earlier. Mood songs is what Evelyn Ramsey called them. And in 2009, I learned this song actually from somebody from the Northeast, Jeff Warner. Now, his parents, Frank and Ann Warner, did a bunch of collecting in North Carolina, especially up around Beach Mountain and out on the Outer Banks. And my husband had just died in March, and this would have been in July. And Jeff met me where we were all signing in as instructors at the Swananoa Gathering. Said, I've got a ballad I want to teach you just like you learned from your folks. And I thought to myself, Lord God, don't you know that's what I want to do right now? Because it took me a while to sort of get my feet back under me after Jim's death. And so we were staying in the same house, and I couldn't avoid him all week. And so he sat down at some point and he said, just like I've heard you say before, that your granny and all those folks over in Sodom said these are stories in a song that will help you get through life. They were songs about life. And I think you probably need this one. And boy, he was right. And I appreciate it. Because, when you live to be past 55, one of the things that you are going to deal with, aside from romance, is the loss of loved ones. And I lost Jim in 2009, and then a couple of years ago I lost my best friend, first cousin, Donna Ray's Aunt Sharon Ray, and then last year Linda Adams, my first cousin, passed away, and Jerry Adams in 2013. And I have to say this much about my cousin Jerry. He influenced everybody on this stage at some point. Just because he was such a wonderful person and he shared his music, and he was especially interested in teaching young people. Josh Goforth is one of Jerry's early fiddle players when he was about 6th or 7th grade. And Adam Landers and Amanda Luther, they wound up in Europe, touring Europe when they were still teenagers. And so I'm going to dedicate this song to Jerry and all the folks that have come and gone in my life, and to Sharon and Linda and my husband Jim. So it's called His Bright Smile Haunts Me Still. It's been a year since last we met, and we may never meet again. I have struggled to forget, but the struggle is in vain. For her voice rides on the breeze, her spirit comes at will, in the midnight on the seas. Her bright smile haunts me still, in the midnight on the seas. Sharon's bright smile haunts me still. I have sailed 'neath foreign skies, and I have trod the desert path. I have seen the storms rise like a giant in his wrath. And every act that I have known that a reckless heart could give, though his spirit has now gone, her bright smile haunts me still, though Linda's spirit has now gone. Her bright smile haunts me still at the first clear break of dawn. As I gaze upon the deep, his form still fills my sight. As the stars their vigil keep, and as I close my aching eyes, sweet dreams my memory fills, and from sleep when I rise, Jim's bright smile haunts me still, and from sleep when I arise, all their bright smiles haunts me still.
Bobby, I know you've got something planned for your part right here, but would you sing a verse or two, maybe two, of either Hicks's Farewell or I Do Me? I'd really like folks to hear that style of singing too. I Do Me? It was I Do Me, okay. So we sing it out of the Christian Harmony down where we are, and there's lots of ways to say it, but
I learned it from the Primitive Baptist Church. There were a couple of verses they didn't sing in their version that was in the Christian Harmony. I don't know if there was a difference in philosophy, you know, or what, or why it wasn't all in it. But this is the way I remember it. And am I born to die, to lay this body down, and must my trembling spirit fly into a world unknown, and must my trembling spirit fly into a world unknown, waked by the trumpet sound, I from the grave shall rise to see the Judge with glory crowned, and view the flaming skies, to see the Judge with glory crowned, and view the flaming skies. I must from God be driven, or with my Savior dwell, must fly at His command to heaven, or else depart to hell, must fly at His command to heaven, or else depart
I want you to sing that. Tune your, what was the name of that ballad you sang on the way down here?
Okay.
Henry of something.
It'll come to me.
Henry of something or other.
All righty.
No, it wasn't Henry.
This isn't one of the oldest, one of the first ballads that I ever learned. I heard it a year or two ago. It come from an old man in Virginia that was, I don't know, the collector was a man named George Foss. I don't know who he got it from or what, but it was just a neat old song, and this is how it goes. An old night rode one summer's day down by the riverside, and there he spied a fair young maid, and all alone she cried. As he's walked up unto her then to see what it could mean, all her lamentations was for John of Hazel Green. All her lamentation was for John of Hazel Green. You're welcome home, my fair young miss. You're welcome home to me, and you may wed my oldest son. A bold young man is he, and you may wed my oldest son. A bold young man is he. I would not wed your oldest son if he were Lord or King, for I intend to be the bride of none but John of Hazel Green. For I intend to be the bride of none but John of Hazel Green. Oh, he is tall, his shoulders broad, he's fair as Lord or King, his hair hangs down in links of gold. My John of Hazel Green, his hair hangs down in links of gold. My John of Hazel Green. He took her up beside him then, and they rode to the town. Bold John of Hazel Green sprang up, and hope his lady down. Bold John of Hazel Green sprang up, and hope his lady down. 3 times he kissed her ruby lips, 3 times he kissed her chin. He taken her by the pale white hand, and led his lady in. He taken her by the pale white hand, and led his lady in. Her eyes were dry, her sorrows gone. At her surprise it seems to find the old knight's oldest son was John of Hazel Green. To find the old knight's eldest son was John of Hazel Green. If ever I should thee forsake, may heaven forsaken me, and cast me in the brimstone lake. forever in eternity, and cast me in the brimstone lake, forever in eternity. And that's it. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you all for coming out tonight. We're going to do one more for you as a group. I just thought about the end of Shindig a lot of times. Shindig on the Green in Asheville, Quay Smathers would say, we got to go home. We got to milk in the morning. So I don't know how many of y'all have to milk in the morning, but we could stay here all night. I know we could because we've got a lot of material and a lot of stories. Thank you to the Department of Natural and Cultural Resources, Hello NC. And also, again, make sure you check out the Blue Ridge Music Trails of North Carolina, where you can find out about these musicians, this style of singing, and our podcast, which has a lot of fun. Sheila Kay is all about one of those, and it's really a fun thing to look at. So BlueRidgeMusicNC.com. And Donna Ray, you had an idea of how to close us out. We're going to come out in the lobby and want to meet y'all and talk and visit, and I'm sure you have questions for some of these singers. We don't have time to open it up to the audience, which is what I wish we could do, but Donna Ray, are you going to lead us in one more tune?
No,
I
she says
can't.
she's going to pass.
I have a hard enough time singing that song when I'm not pregnant.
So are you going to lead it, Miss
Yeah.
Sheila? Okay.
Yeah, I'll do it.
And we'll all chime in. Can you chime in? Or do we have to make you lay down, Donna Ray?
Oh, Donna? No.
You sing the harmony.
No, she's going to wait till we get back to
We're
the
all
hotel
gonna
so I
sing
can
the
deliver
chorus.
that baby. I know
Okay.
that's what
Right?
Are you going to sing
Would
all the...
anybody like to tell me just what we were going to sing?
You'll figure it out, Joe.
we'll let you and Bobby know.
Yeah, it's awful. I'm always the last to know. You.
Jerusalem morn, like we always do.
What?
Jerusalem morn.
Who
Lord, I
cares
hated
asked?
all the men in my life have gone deaf as a post.
There's a reason
Yeah,
for
there
that,
is
Sheila.
Kaz asked.
Well, that happened to Inez's husband, too. Glenn Chandler could hear as good as anybody and been married to Inez 6 months, stone deaf for the rest of his life. I don't blame him. But anyway, this is one that I learned from Kaz Wallen, who would do his hands like he was conducting shape note singing. It's called Jerusalem Morn, and the chorus goes, don't you hear Jerusalem morn? Don't you hear Jerusalem morn? Thank God there's a song that's a singing in my soul, and my soul's sought free. Sought for said. Don't you hear Jerusalem morn? All right? There's a Baptist preacher, you can tell him by his coat. Don't you hear Jerusalem morn? Got a bottle in his pocket that he can't hardly tote. Don't you hear Jerusalem morn? Don't you hear Jerusalem morn? Don't you hear Jerusalem morn? Thank God there's a song that's a singing in my soul, and my soul's sought free. Don't you hear Jerusalem morn? There's a Methodist preacher, don't you know? Don't you hear Jerusalem morn? Oh, that he never let a rooster get big enough to crow. Don't you hear Jerusalem morn? Don't you hear Jerusalem morn? Don't you hear Jerusalem morn? Thank God there's a song that's singing in my soul, and my soul's sought free. Don't you hear Jerusalem morn? Oh, them Presbyterians, they're so proud. Don't you hear Jerusalem morn? Well, their necks so stiff they can't hardly bow. Don't you hear Jerusalem morn? Don't you hear Jerusalem morn? Don't you hear Jerusalem morn? Thank God there's a song that's singing in my soul, and my soul's sought free. Don't you hear Jerusalem morn? Why, them holy rollers, they're all right. Don't you hear Jerusalem morn? Well, they'll roll, they'll tumble, they'll kick out the lights. Don't you hear Jerusalem morn? Don't you hear Jerusalem morn? Don't you hear Jerusalem morn? Thank God there's a song that's singing in my soul, and my soul's sought free. Don't you hear Jerusalem morn? Oh, them Episcopalians come equipped. Don't you hear Jerusalem morn? Where 2 or 3 are gathered, you're gonna find a fifth. Don't you hear Jerusalem morn? Don't you hear Jerusalem morn? Don't you hear Jerusalem mourn? Thank God there's a song that's singing in my soul, and my soul's set free. Don't you hear Jerusalem mourn? Well, there's a Southern Baptist matron a-settin' in her pew. Don't you hear Jerusalem mourn? Well, God ain't judging her, but she's a-judging you. Don't you hear Jerusalem mourn? Don't you hear Jerusalem mourn? Don't you hear Jerusalem mourn? Thank God there's a song that's a-singing in my soul, and my soul's set free. Don't you hear Jerusalem mourn? Well, that Catholic priest, he'll jingle his bell. Don't you hear Jerusalem mourn? Well, he'll take $10 and pray you out of purgatory. Don't you hear Jerusalem mourn? Don't you hear Jerusalem mourn? Don't you hear Jerusalem mourn? Thank God there's a song that's a-singing in my soul, and my soul's set free. Don't you hear Jerusalem mourn? Well, them TV evangelists, now what can I say? Don't you hear Jerusalem mourn? Oh, they're raking in the money while they're rolling in the hay. Don't you hear Jerusalem mourn? Don't you hear Jerusalem mourn? Don't you hear Jerusalem mourn? Thank God there's a song that's a-singing in my soul, and my soul's set free. Don't you hear Jerusalem mourn?
Bobby McMillan, Sheila Kay Adams, Donna Ray Norton, and Joe Penland. A nest of
And Laura
singing birds. A
Boosinger.
nest of
Laura
singing
Boosinger.
birds. Thank you all. We'll meet you in the lobby.
Thank you.